So it kind of hit me that when we say fundamental teacher, in one way, the Buddha is the founder of the Dharma in our world. So he's the fundamental teacher in that way, that all the teachings that we're exposed to go back to the Buddha. But then it just made me think that we could maybe see it in another way, and maybe the fundamental teacher is the fundamental innate mind of clear light that realizes emptiness. And when we actualize that becomes our real object of refuge. So maybe there's several ways to interpret what we're saying. Okay, so we'll do the mantra. Again, let's recall our precious human life, and then the fact that we are now one day closer to death than we were yesterday. That our life is getting consumed moment by moment. And so with the awareness of its transient nature, then let's really make a strong determination to use it wisely and to extract full benefit from this opportunity while we have it, so that when the time of death comes, we feel completely okay about saying goodbye to our body, to our mind, to our friends and relatives, to our possessions, to our whole constructed ego identity, that when all these things fade away, we're completely fine with it all, and are able to die with a bodhicitta motivation, aspiring to have rebirths from now until enlightenment that will provide the best circumstances for us to be able to practice, so that quickly we can be of the greatest benefit to sentient beings. And so learning the Bodhisattva precepts is one step in that direction. So I found something on the web that is about the Day of Miracles. I thought to share that with you so that you'll know why this day is special. Now, why is this day unlike all other days? So there are 4 special days in the Buddhist year, and one is the Day of Miracles, which is today. And then we have, that occurs on the 15th day of the first lunar month. And then on the 15th day of the 4th lunar month, we have Vesak, which is the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing away. Then 7 weeks after that, we have the day that commemorates his first turning of the Dharma wheel. And then after the end of the rains retreat, we have Labak Duchen, which celebrates the day that the Buddha came down from the God realms after teaching his mother the Dharma there for the 3 months. So there's lots of stories about all of these. But I thought to tell you about the Day of Miracles. I found something about it here, which is interesting. And it happened at Sravasti. Okay? So, now you get a little bit of background about the history of Sravasti. Okay, so when the Buddha was 40 years old, so it was, must have been, because he attained enlightenment at 35, so he, not too long after that. So there were 6 great non-Buddhist teachers who existed at that time. And they challenged the Buddha to a competition of miracles. And at first the Buddha declined. I mean, for quite a long time he declined, because he thought, this just is like, miracles, schmiracles, what's the big deal? And they kept bugging him, and so finally he accepted their challenge. Okay? And at that time, there were great kings and noble families who sponsored teachers who could perform miracles. And so eventually the Buddha accepted, because he thought that many people would benefit and attain arhatship, and that people of the future would be inspired to practice as a result of his demonstration. Okay, so the first day of the new year to the 15th day, that the whole period is actually is the miracle period, because the Buddha performed miracles each day during that, and today's kind of like the ultimate culmination of all of them. So the competition happened at Sravasti. There were 80,000 Buddhists and 84,000 non-Buddhists. I don't know why more non-Buddhists came. Maybe they didn't type it right here. So on the first day, the Buddha held his toothpick, and he put it in the ground, and it turned into a wish-fulfilling tree. Okay, so that one was for Venerable Chuni. Yes, the money tree. Yeah. It was decorated with jewels. Okay. On the second day, the Buddha manifested 2 wish-fulfilling jewels. So that one was for you, for the perfect kitchen. And on the third day, the king offered to wash the Buddha's feet. And afterwards, when the king threw the water, it became a pool with the 8 special qualities of water. Okay, pure and limpid and so on. And whoever drank it or touched it was healed. So that's for you and you. And and Zopa, where's Zopa? Yeah. Okay. And everybody else who's sick. Yeah. And so today there's a well there where small amounts of water are offered for sale. We give ours away free. Okay. And it's useful for treating diseases. On the 4th day, it rained and filled the 8 canals. On the 5th day, the Buddha emitted golden light from his mouth, and people could see the beings of the 6 realms being liberated. Okay, so that's for John, with to solve all of his doubts. And on the 6th day, the Buddha transformed some energy, and everybody became clairvoyant and knew each other's minds. Uh-oh. I hope they had great compassion when they did this. On the 7th day, the Buddha manifested as the wheel-turning king, and many people converted to Buddhism. So that one's for Danny, because then she knows why everybody's doing what they're doing. And okay, on the 8th day, the gods from Indu's palace sponsored the meals. So they served the Buddha and made offerings to him. Okay, so who wants? Oh, that one's for Tracy. Yeah, sponsoring the food. And Cheryl too. Okay. Okay, and at that time, the Buddha's hand pressed the side of his seat, and a thundering sound was emitted, and 5 frightening giant cannibals came out of the ground, and they went for the seats of the non-Buddhist teachers. And Vajrapani also threatened the non-Buddhist teachers, and so all those non-Buddhist teachers ran away. Okay, and Vajrapani manifested a great storm. It became a tornado that went over Missouri and Indiana and put all the houses that the other tornado tore up, put them back in place. And it picked up the non-Buddhist teachers and their retinue and tossed them into the water. But I think Noah's Ark came along and saved them. And so 60,000 non-Buddhists converted that day, and many monks and nuns attained the Arhat state and their understandings. And the gods showered flowers. Okay, and then on the 9th day, the Buddha grew his body until the Brahma realm was under his chin. The Brahmas are the third realm of the four jhanas. And on the 10th day, the Buddha's body grew to the top of Akanishta, which is the fourth of the form realm ones. So his body got quite big. On the 11th day, the Buddha was not visible, but the sound of his voice was heard everywhere. On the 12th day, light came from his body and radiated to all of samsara and developed loving kindness in everybody. That was nice. That's for all of you. Okay, on the 13th day, the Buddha manifested light from the spot between his eyebrows, filling all of space with Buddhas who all taught the Dharma. It's for all of everybody. On the 14th day, the flowers that were offered by the gods filled all of space, and on each flower a Buddha manifested and taught. On the 15th day, the Buddha gave the energy so that all the beings could see all 6 realms. Many people converted to Buddhism after seeing the lower realms with their own eyes. And Chenrezig Hall instantaneously manifested, complete with all facilities that were forever the right size for all the Abbey's guests and needed no repairs from now until samsara ends. Okay? Okay, so that's what we have to celebrate today. So all the merit created on these days is multiplied, I don't know how many millions of times. Yeah, so any small action or big action, listening to teachings or meditating or whatever you do, making offerings, then all the power of the merit is multiplied. So very auspicious. So we should all make effort to rejoice in each other's merit, not only to create merit, but to rejoice in each other's merit. Okay? So now we'll come back here to the Bodhisattva precepts. Okay, so we did number 22 about not dispelling laziness and the like. You all got up this morning? Okay. Yeah, so not dispelling. This one says the 3 kinds of laziness. So we started, actually the next one, number 23, is actually related to one of the kinds of laziness. But we talked yesterday about the first kind of laziness, the one of oversleeping and lying around and what we normally consider laziness. And then we just started to talk about the laziness of being very busy with samsaric activities, you know, with our work and our hobbies and our social life and our this and our that and running around and, you know, collecting things and selling things and, you know, your bonsai trees and your bowling club and your, you know, being very busy with cyclic existence, you know, climbing up the corporate ladder and making all your political connections and, you know, entering the presidential primary. I mean, it's all samsaric activities, isn't it? Yeah? And it's done with that kind of motivation. Okay, so keeping ourselves, as Geshe Nawandargi say, the busiest of the busy. Okay? And that's what it means to be a successful person nowadays. That you're too busy to do anything. That means you're successful. If you have any free time whatsoever, it means that you don't have a life. You have to be stressed out, overworked, have too many things to do, yeah, and so many friends that you're forever busy and popular, yeah? And then that means that you're happy. Doesn't it? Isn't that what we're told? Yeah. So cultivating that kind of life is what the second kind of laziness, you know. We're so busy doing things unrelated to Dharma that it's laziness in Dharma practice, okay? So cultivating that kind of lifestyle and, you know, getting ourselves so immersed that we don't have time to breathe or do anything else. Yeah? And then the third kind of laziness is the laziness of discouragement. Yeah? So discouragement, self-pity, poor me, I can't do it, everybody else understands, but I don't, they all have a precious human life, I don't, you know, I have more problems than everybody else, they have 84,000, you know, afflictions, I have 85,000 afflictions, you know, I can't do it, I don't understand, this is impossible, you know, this self-critical, self-defeating, discouraged mind. So that's laziness. We spend a lot of time being lazy, don't we? We spend a lot of time in that self-pity, self-deprecating mind. So next time you get into that mental state, then say, I'm transgressing this precept. See if that wakes you up a little bit. You know, the more I indulge in this self-pity state, I'm counteracting this, you know, I'm going against this precept. So if I want to really counteract my laziness, I have to try to pull myself out of that mental state. Yeah. So how do you pull yourself out of the mental state? You know, your nice self-pity party with your lead balloons. Yeah. You've dug yourself a nice hole, yeah, 15,000 feet into the ground, you know, and you've descended into your hole and decorated it all in, you know, black streamers, you know, and told yourself, I'm just, you know, worthless, I can't do it, this doesn't work. So how are you going to get yourself out of that hole? Rejoice. Rejoice in what? Like what? Yeah, you got up this morning. Rejoice. Yeah. You cultivated bodhicitta when you got up, I hope. Okay, so rejoice at that. Yeah? Oh, yeah, so notice your good qualities and give yourself some empathy. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Yeah, so rejoice we met the Dharma and we have teachers and the opportunity to practice. That's really something to rejoice at. I mean, think of being in Syria right now. You know, same planet as we're on. Think of living in homes. Yeah? And then look at our situation. That's something to rejoice at, isn't it? You know, and not to take for granted. Yeah? Okay, so taking and giving Tonglen, to do that, and that, you know, taking on the suffering of others, giving them our happiness. You don't think that'll make you more depressed? It doesn't seem to. It's kind of miraculous, isn't it? That when you take on others' suffering, it alleviates your own depression. I think that's because it makes us feel like our suffering is worthwhile in some way. It takes you out of yourself. Yeah. It's not all about me. Duh. What a revelation. But it is a revelation, isn't it? It's not all about me. Mm-hmm.
I remind myself that that method doesn't work. It just brings me so much misery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it helps you if you remember that it doesn't help you. Yeah?
Just doing some kind of circus activity like that.
Yeah. So another way to get yourself out of yourself is to do.
The master teacher that actually living that condition of being meditating in caves and that doesn't have food, that he has to wait that person can give food. I mean the condition of the weather and all the things
Mm-hmm.
and say you have here everything.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about the condition of other people who are practicing food without the good, comfortable conditions that you have, that really helps you feel up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And all those other people who were living without food and in the cold and everything, they were still working for the benefit of sentient beings in their practice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Buddha Dharma Sangha. I personally find it very helpful to contemplate the qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas when I'm feeling down. That just thinking about their qualities, it helps make my me, and they develop these qualities, and there's being. So, yeah, can do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 So purification is helpful because you're saying sometimes when you're down, it's because of something that happened and you don't feel completely at peace with your own actions. And so getting to the bottom of it and seeing what it is that you don't feel comfortable with and then doing purification of that, then that releases the bad mood, the depressed mood. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. What? Yeah, to remember that it's changeable. It's not inherently existent. Took us a while to remember that as an antidote, didn't it? Yes. Yeah, to recognize your own integrity. Yeah. Tap into your self-confidence. Okay. So there's a lot we can do to pull ourselves out of a depressed mental state. Uh-huh. So the thing is, what you should all do is rerun this video, write down all these methods, and then put it, on your refrigerator or, on your nightstand or something where you'll remember to use them. Because we always brainstorm them, but then when we feel down, it's like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Yeah? So we have to, remember these things and then use them when we need them. Okay? So that's your homework assignment. I'm going to check everybody's room and see if you have a list somewhere in your room. You think I won't. We'll see. Okay. So the one about being too busy in samsara, the way to counteract that, so that you don't transgress the precept, is to think about the disadvantages of samsara. Do the 3 kinds of dukkha, the 8 kinds of dukkha, the 6 kinds of dukkha. Yeah? You don't know what they are, look them up. Yeah? And then contemplate those. And when you do, then you see the disadvantages of cyclic existence, and that gives you a lot of energy to get yourself out. Or like I was talking this morning about, the friendly letter talked so much about renunciation. So maybe read that text and get some energy from that. Okay, now we'll go on to number 23, which says, indulging in idle talk. The literal translation is conversation about bears. So that's idle talk, isn't it? Could be a conversation about donkeys and elephants. I don't know. Okay, out of attachment. Okay, here it says, with attachment, spending time idly talking and joking. Okay, so the third misdeed in relationship to joyous effort is defined as attachment to negative activity. So he put it here in this one, that second kind of laziness. It consists of indulging to excess in the pleasure we draw from senseless conversations. Okay, I think that second kind of laziness isn't just senseless conversations. It's much broader, but this is really pinpointing it. Because this is one of our favorite activities, isn't it? Hanging out and chatting. Mm-hmm. What is considered excessive indulgence? In other words, can we have moderate indulgence? Indulgence. If out of attachment to this kind of talk, we spend more than an entire morning, afternoon, or evening discussing various topics, such as, so this is actually quite a long time, a whole morning, a whole afternoon, that's a long time. Listen to the topics. Our childhood. You can tell he's a contemporary teacher. This one was not for Tibetans. They don't talk about their childhood. Who talks about their childhood? Us. My childhood. Okay. Crime. Okay. Women, men, politics, sports, sales, computer equipment, widgets. Okay. What else? Food. Oh, yes, of course. What else? The weather. Yeah. What else? Oh, yeah, the latest television show. And what the Red Sox are doing. Okay. Yeah, talking about what this person's doing and that person's doing. Okay. Talking about who's an incarnation of Maitreya and who's an incarnation. Kind of like that, isn't it? Okay. So doing this is a misdeed associated with afflictions. Okay. If there is no attachment involved, and out of forgetfulness, which is most of the time, I wonder, but out of forgetfulness, we just do not see the time go by. The misdeed is not associated with afflictions. So you're talking and talking and you're not realizing a whole morning went by. Yes?
I just have a question. With some people who says that it's not out of attachment, how can you spend the whole morning and evening and afternoon talking and it's not out of attachment to talking?
I have that same question. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's different conditions in here. We're going to get into them where, that would make for that kind of thing. Yeah. So there will be no misdeed under the following circumstances. Point of view of the listener, which is to say us, we listen only briefly to someone's idle talk in a positive frame of mind, intent on helping the person who is talking and remaining mindful all the while. In other words, we refrain from getting completely drawn into the conversation. So that means what the other person's talking about is boring. To be able to keep that same distance, even if it's interesting, be mindful, not completely buy into the conversation. Okay. But I think that, I don't know about you, but to me, I couldn't stay a long time in a conversation like that. If something's not interesting, then I usually don't stay long in the conversation, yeah? Or change it to another topic that is, if they're talking about sports, then I want to talk about, what color the carpeting is in the meditation hall. That's really interesting, isn't it? Okay, and then the second exception is from the angle of the topic. The conversation concerns outstanding events or news, and we just ask a few questions or reply to those that we are asked. It is important for those practicing the Bodhisattva path to be aware of what is going on in the world at large. Okay, so we might be talking about politics or this or that, but just, kind of on not spending all day and a night discussing politics of this and that, and, who should run against who and how they should strategize their campaign, and, how if the Republicans would only put up somebody, yeah, then, so if we talk a little bit about things, just so we know what's going on in the world, that's fine, but not excessive talk. And so I would say also in here, it could be a situation, like let's say you're working in a nurse. Yeah? And this could be what Tracy's talking about, where, you say it's part of your job. You're taking care of different, because their relatives are because it's some kind of personal connection, The same thing at your job. It isn't like you go in and, silent everybody, to avoid idle talk. But you chit-chat with people and you're pleasant and friendly so that you establish a nice feeling of kindness at your workplace. So that wouldn't be a transgression. Okay? So this is when we get very involved in the conversation, just all of our time goes by, doesn't it? Talking about things that really aren't worth very much. So that's what it's opposed to. The precept is trying to get us not to waste our time. Number one. Make attachment grow in our mind, or going to make anger grow in our mind. These negative emotions, we wind up acting out, and creating negative karma. So it's another reason for this precept. Okay? But it doesn't. Yeah? Okay, sure. Okay. And then last paragraph, he says, of the three secondary misdeeds relative to the practice of joyous effort, the first is contrary to the precept of the ethic of helping living beings. So that one was the one about eager for gain and honors, gathering a following. Okay, so that is, interferes with the ethic of helping living beings. Oh, it says right here, yeah, which is to gather a circle of followers in a manner that is in accordance with the teaching. Okay, and the second goes against a precept of the ethic of collecting virtue to practice joyous effort, because we're being lazy, so we're not collecting virtue. And the third conflicts with the ethical conduct of abstention, because we are required to avoid amusements and seek solitude so as to create favorable conditions for observing the Bodhisattva ethical conduct. So remember, we talked about 3 kinds of Bodhisattva ethical conduct: to abstain from negativities, to do virtuous actions, and to benefit others. So he's saying how these 3, there's one for each of those 3 types of ethical conduct. Yeah? Okay, there's 3 kinds of Bodhisattva ethical conduct. So one is to abstain from negativity. So the one that corresponds with that is this last precept of not indulging in idle talk out of attachment. And then the other kind of, second kind of Bodhisattva ethical conduct is to create virtue. And so the one that helps us do that is number 22, because we're dispelling laziness. And then the third kind of ethical conduct of a Bodhisattva is to work for the benefit of others. And so precept number 21 corresponds with that, because it protects us from gathering a following out of a really rotten motivation, which doesn't benefit anybody. Okay? Yeah?
Can I ask you a slightly related question?
Sure.
About getting out of idle conversation, gossipy type of talk without lying? Is that what you said, like make sure not to lie?
Mm-hmm.
So, say for example, someone says, "Oh, have you heard what's going on with so-and-so's marriage?" And what's up with that? And you do actually know, because they've confided in you.
Mm-hmm.
But you say,
Yeah.
I don't know. Say, I know, but I'm not going to tell you, which in fact affirms that there is problems.
Uh-huh. Okay, so somebody says to you, "Oh, do you know what's going on with so-and-so's marriage?" Because they're hoping you know so that you can tell them.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really want to tell, because somebody's told you, but you just don't feel like it's your business telling other people, and you really don't want to talk about it. Then, you could say, "Well, I heard they're having some problems, but I'm not completely clear on it all." Which is true, because even if they've confided in you, are you completely clear on their problems? No.
It can be slightly evasive, but truthful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's truthful, but it's, something's happening, but I'm not really clear about it. And they're not really clear, so of course you can't be really clear either. Yeah. So that's, something like that.
I always thought of it as like not my truth to tell someone else.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's not my knowledge there.
Yeah.
Even if they told me, like, sorry, I don't know, it's not mine.
Right, it's not your knowledge. Right, exactly. You could say that too, It's not, you could say it's not up to me to, just be truthful. I don't really feel like talking about what's happening with other people. Yeah, you can say that as well. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's the kind of feeling that I like to give when, if I say, I don't really know everything that's going on. It's like, this isn't important. I don't really want to talk about it. It's not my business. Yeah. Instead, yeah, they told me the whole scoop. This to that, this and that, this and that. Yeah. 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 Sure. Any other questions about? Okay, then we have the 3 misdeeds contrary to far-reaching meditative stability. Okay? So number 24 is not seeking the means to develop meditative concentration. Okay, here, not seeking the means to develop concentration. such as proper instructions and the right conditions necessary to do so, and also includes not practicing the instructions once we have received them. Okay? So this refers to our failure to collect information on concentration by attending lectures on it, and it is described as a fault at the preliminary stage. Okay? Because when you're going to develop meditative stability, the preliminary stage is to learn about what you're supposed to do. Okay? And this is interesting because, you know, we get all sorts of people who are new to the Dharma who want to meditate. Yeah, and so eager. I mean, at least my generation, way back when. People now are different. But, you know, we all, you know, wanted to just go in and meditate. But we had no clue about what we were supposed to be doing. Yeah. So, you know, being so enthusiastic, but not really knowing what you're doing. And so if you do that, then, you know, not a whole lot changes in your mind. Yeah, either in terms of purification or in terms of developing any kind of meditative conduct, meditative stability. Who was it that told the story of, they were visiting one Geshe, and they told the story of Lorraine was there visiting one Geshe, and somebody who came in had just done a 3-year retreat and was saying this and this and this and this and this, you know, and then when the person left, the Geshe, or was a Geshe or a meditator? It was a Rinpoche. Okay. Said, oh, 3 years later and the mind's still the same. Yeah?
Laughing all the way.
Laughing, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't know how to meditate properly, and you don't understand the Dharma properly, then you could spend a long time but not really accomplish a lot. Yeah. Okay, so that, and the fault is not learning about what to do. Yeah, not attending teachings, not knowing what meditation is. Yeah. I mean, because now people, you know, they make up their own meditation. Meditation is you sit down and you daydream about Prince Charming. That's meditation. Yeah, people make up their own meditations. Yeah, and I even have people who have been studying the Dharma for quite a long time, and they mix and match different sadhanas. And they, you know, change the sadhana around and do this and that and the other thing. But, you know, maybe they haven't heard teachings on it, or maybe they've heard teachings and they're ignoring the teachings, which is the next one, you know. But, you know, making sure that you have the teachings so when you do retreat, you know what you're doing. And even, you know, in our daily meditation practice, to know what we're doing. So we want to develop our powers of concentration. When we want to develop our powers of concentration, refusing to attend a presentation on concentration techniques out of animosity or pride, thinking that we already know everything on the subject, for example, is a misdeed associated with afflictions. Okay? So somebody, you know, our teacher is giving a talk on that topic, yeah, or something is going on and we say, oh, I've heard that already, or, you know, I already know how to do the practice, I don't need it. So there's either arrogance or animosity, oh, that person doesn't know what they're talking about, that kind of thing. So that's a misdeed associated with afflictions. And if we fail to participate out of laziness or sloth, as usual, it's a misdeed dissociated from affliction. So you're just too lazy to go to the teaching. Okay, and then there's no misdeed in these situations. One is we're physically incapacitated by illness, clearly, that's okay. 2, we suspect that the explanation might be inaccurate. So it doesn't mean you go to everybody who's teaching about concentration, because if you don't think the person has any experience, or that they haven't studied the text correctly, then there's no obligation to go. And 3, we have already studied the topic thoroughly and are now able to remain in one-pointed concentration, or are presently applying the instructions on it. Okay, so you've studied the topic, you're meditating, doing it, and you're under your teacher's guidance. So what you're doing is going on and going well. Okay. Okay. Then next one. Shall we squeeze in? No, the next one is long. We better wait for that one for tomorrow. Any questions? Yeah.
What about when you have a teacher who don't practice it, then you don't go to the school? You have the offering, and there's a possibility to go to teachings about meditation, I'm not sure if you want to listen to this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there's the possibility to go for teachings on meditation, but you're not sure that you want to listen to that teacher. That falls under the second one. If you don't know if the instructions are going to be accurate, and you're not sure if you really want to set up a teacher-student relationship with that person, yeah, so then it's fine. There's no obligation to go. I think this is mostly talking about if it is your teacher, yeah, and it's going to be good instructions and reliable and so on, and you're angry or arrogant or just too lazy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
About the laziness one.
Mm-hmm.
Because in many of the translations, the long-term expression about lazy is about laziness.
Yeah.
But probably, I don't know if it's like some comments about the laziness that in use of the precepts.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do anything to counteract this, it would be a idea associated to affliction.
Yeah. Okay. So is what you're saying that in so many of the precepts it says that if you're doing or not doing the action that you're not supposed to do or not do, but your motivation is out of laziness or sloth, that it's a transgression without afflictions. Okay, that's still a transgression, but the karma's not as heavy. And you're asking, if you fail to counteract that laziness and sloth, is that itself a transgression? Yeah, circular. Yeah. So it would seem from looking at the ones about enthusiastic or joyous effort, yeah, that if you had this habit of just being lazy and slothful and you did nothing to counteract that, yeah, it seems to me. Yeah, I mean, what does he say in here? Did he talk about afflictions or not afflictions with either of these? Any of these? Okay, the one about indulging in idle talk, he talked about afflictions or not afflictions. About the one about laziness and, oversleeping and stuff like that, there's no talk about afflictions or not afflictions. Yeah, it's just if you don't apply an antidote to it, okay? And then with the first one of attracting people with bad motivation, he doesn't, he does say about afflictions and non-affliction. But the one about, sleeping and lolling around, he doesn't say. So that one doesn't have that condition. Okay? Yeah? Yeah?
So for this last one about developing concentration, when it says when you want to develop concentration, this only really applies in the context of being mature enough and having the kind of conditions to have a formal retreat.
Okay, so you're asking if this one about not learning about meditative stability only applies in the condition of wanting to do a retreat to attain it. No, it primarily applies in that situation. But, in general, we should learn something about what concentration means and, how to attain it. Okay, then we'll dedicate. Yeah, we're out of time anyway.